The sentences imposed today provide a clear message to persons involved in international drug trafficking that Ireland is not a soft target for transnational organised criminal networks. This and other drugs interdictions over recent years clearly demonstrate that all agencies of the state, supported by our international partners, will work together to successfully disrupt and dismantle criminal networks engaged in drug trafficking, thereby reducing harm to our communities. To those involved in drug trafficking, the message is clear that the full force of the Irish state, supported by our international partners, is against you. The reality facing you is security interdictions, special investigations, the special criminal court, lengthy sentences, and asset seizure. Transnational organised crime gangs cause misery to communities not only in Ireland, but throughout the world. Tackling these gangs not only makes Ireland safer, but all the other countries that they operate in as well. Thank you very much.
So that is a dramatic bit of footage that I received on my mobile phone on Saturday, and do you think I could see a bit of it?
Right, okay.
Like, it was quite far away. You did have to come. I knew what was kind of happening because obviously I'd covered the sentencing, and I was telling you on Friday that there was a particular part of the boat that they had to jump down from, but you can actually see the Army Rangers kind of like literally
hanging,
fast roping and hanging. It is pretty dramatic.
We're obviously talking about the MV Matthew. There was a press conference over the weekend, and some of the footage and as well some really interesting stilled images were released where you see the cocaine as it's the attempt to burn it in the lifeboat, which looks very different than what I actually imagined the lifeboat to be. We've sometimes been said the guards are behind other police forces in their PR drive, but you can see the guards released this 12-minute video, really, really interesting. They also played some of the voicemails of the guys in Dubai who were directing the operation, who were leading voice messages on the group chats. And Interpol were there, very, very interesting stuff. But as you can see, as have come out of all the reports, they're connecting it into this global picture of how drug trafficking works.
Yeah. Now, did you expect the MV Matthew to be as big as it is? When you see the helicopter up to it, you can see what a vast cargo ship this is. Now, it's still sitting in Cork?
Still sitting in Cork. It's due to be sold.
It's for sale, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's due to be sold, unless somebody flies in from Dubai and says, that's mine, which they're not going to do.
No, but it's been a difficult thing to hold on to and to also sell. I mean, there's a finite market for a thing like this. I mean, it's just this vast vessel. You can see the cargo holes, on the front of it. And of course, it was the third one, I think it said in court, where the cocaine was hidden. And when you removed the packaging around the cocaine, it was as if you were transporting a couple of matchboxes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge ship. And some of the cost has just been to maintain something that size, that weight. Just even to hold it in a harbour, it costs money. But it's the video, I think, is really, really interesting.
Yeah. So what else was there to see on that video apart from the Rangers fast roping down?
Well, you can see some of the messages.
The pursuit, can't you?
You can see the pursuit, and some of that is, ships at sea. But I think I thought the messages were really interesting. You can see how it's been directed by a guy calling himself Captain Noah.
Yeah.
A biblical reference, no doubt. It's you see two things.
So Captain Noah we spoke about was is somebody with the nautical experience who's sort of directing.
Yes, he's in Dubai.
Yeah,
we don't know further details of who he is, but you can hear his voice. He's not an Irish person.
Yeah,
but he
knows the seas. He knows shipping routes. He knows, well, certainly he purports to.
Yeah.
Does he? Is it he that goes back and tells them about the legal advice they've got about international waters?
He was the one giving the legal advice. I think that was by text.
He was giving the legal advice.
Well, I think he's communicating. I think they only have one point of communication.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but mostly it's him anyway who's directing the operation. But I'm sure he's taking directions himself. But this cell structure is how they describe it operating. Interpol and the Gardaí both spoke in detail about how it works, and it's, you read all of the reports describe who is involved as well, which is, while the Kinahan Cartel are not named directly in court, it is clear that that's the belief. And also the belief that Hezbollah played a key role in this whole drug trafficking operation.
So there's obviously is Iranian nationals caught on the boat. From the sentencing, we hear that a lot of these people, they certainly told the court that they have fallen on financial hard times, they have bills to pay, they want to better their family, etc., etc. But it is key, and always is, when they see the nationalities on the boats, and particularly Iranian these days, which always is, an indication that there's something more to this than meets the eye. Now, Hezbollah are based in Lebanon, but they sort of are partner networks with Hamas, who we've all heard about now due to the Israeli conflict, and Hamas are embedded into Gaza. But these groupings are basically at war with the West, ultimately, and those wars cost a lot of money, and they need funding. So they have been involved in laundering of money, and they've been involved in this Hawala system that we have heard of, that the Kinahans have used. But also the actual movement of drugs across the globe is almost twofold to groupings like this, and to regimes like Iran and like Russia, because not only can they invest money and, how many times do you multiply it at the other end? If you land your cargo successfully and sell it on the streets, you make a lot of money. But they also, cocaine is a drug that is like really affecting Europe. The usage of it, it is causing the sort of the wars on the street with a lot of the gangs. It is a very negative effect socially, as well as everything else. So it's kind of like a two-pronged thing for the likes of Hezbollah. They feel that they're sort of, it's a disease really in the West, isn't it? Cocaine.
I mean, it's a complicated picture, I suppose, with all of these groups. So during the court case, we heard this Iranian nexus was how it was described by the guards involved in this shipment. Like, Iran have been regarded, or Hezbollah and Hamas are regarded as proxies for Iran. I mean, that is what the American government have said. This has never been more prominent in the media than obviously in the last few weeks with Israel attacking Iran. But according to the US and Israel, Iran have funded Hezbollah and Hamas for many, many years in order to, in effect, have these proxy forces, and also in Syria as well. They had an influence, so that has broken down. But the involvement of Hezbollah, Hezbollah are a state within a state in the Lebanon, as it's described. They control a huge portion of territory, and they effectively operate as a government. But when the trouble in the Lebanon really began many years ago in the 70s and 80s, there was a huge amount of people left and moved to South America. So there's a huge Lebanese expat community in countries like Brazil, like Colombia, and all of those areas, and as well in Venezuela. So ever since, there have been these connections. Now, throughout the 1990s, Hezbollah actually carried out a number of terrorist attacks in South America, targeting Israeli embassies. So they have that. It's something like the Irish community in the US, where we had this huge expat community, and there was people funding the IRA from the US, expats and first generation. So Hezbollah have had that. Now, they have a particular area they call the tri-state area, where they're particularly tri-border area, which is kind of on the border of Brazil and Colombia. And they have, according to the US, become involved in every bit of cocaine trafficking throughout the world. And that money is fed back to Hezbollah to fund their war against Israel effectively. So what we're hearing about the MV Matthew, what's being said by Interpol, is that Hezbollah funded it or part funded it with organised crime gangs. And they have also, where it came from, of course, is Venezuela.
So in other words, they're providing some of the investment, but also they would have their own contacts in these countries, in the regions where the cartels are operating, where you sort of get the cocaine through onto these boats.
Yes, and in Venezuela in particular, where they have had, Hezbollah have particular, and Iran have particular ties with the government there. So they provide logistical support, but they also...
They've their own men on the ground.
They've their own men on the ground.
And isn't it funny, because everyone needs their own men on the ground. I mean, we talked about what happened with the MV Matthew, how it loaded the drugs off the Venezuelan coast. There was a number of people on the ship at that point who were privy to what was happening, but the rest of the crew had been given drink to get them pissed so as they wouldn't notice as the cocaine was being loaded. The plan was the ship crossed the Atlantic, slowed a little bit around the Canary Islands, and made its way up to Ireland, where the decision had been made that it was going to transfer its cargo onto this other ship called the Castlemore. Now, on the Matthew, we have this guy called Dutch Jimmy, who is nothing to do with the seas, doesn't seem to have as much experience as you or I of sailing a boat that size across the Atlantic. Yet he's there, he's the cartel man on the ship, and he is basically keeping an eye. The captain ultimately becomes frightened of him and believes he's been put on the ship to kill him. He's also kept in the captain's quarters and not in the kind of the general crew area. But he's there. Now on the Castlemore, which is an equally important ship, because it's going to meet the Matthew and it's going to take this sort of precious cargo to its next destination, which is obviously landing at Ireland before it's broken up and logistically moved on into Europe. There's two men on it. One of them is a Ukrainian and the other is an English man who told the courts that he was sort of had a drug problem. He seems to have had a couple of convictions, small fry enough convictions. He's been in and out of the prison system, but he's this drug problem. And the other man is a 62-year-old Ukrainian. Now, one of those has to be of equal importance, really, as Dutch Jimmy, given that they're going to take control and handling of all of that cocaine.
Totally. I mean, you can see certainly in some of the people that come before the courts, they're effectively maritime workers, gone wrong and making a foolish choice. But there's other people, I mean, in fact, actually, I did see a figure in one of the reports putting on the initial investment. Obviously, it was 157 million was the street value.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that's where every individual gram is sold as for 60 euros. But there was some report saying that they believe the initial investment, £5 million was paid for that cocaine.
At all.
That's what was said now. I don't know. If
and you had the ship, the MV Matthew. The MV Matthew had to be bought. The Castlemore had to be bought.
Yeah, and so
they all had to be crewed, and everybody had to be paid.
I mean, we know what the Castlemore would cost, which is 300,000, which again is a significant investment. We know that the MV Matthew is being sold for something like 9 million. So all of these investments go in. The cocaine may have been cost that little, but you can see why you would employ what is it? Is it 8 people at the very least? Presumably more on every level. All of them being paid, but you can see why there's huge amounts of money to be made once you land that. But yeah, so the guys, you can see the maritime guys who've taken the wrong choice, but there are other people there.
There are other people involved in this that have, and also, people who are still under investigation, because the investigation into what happened with the MV Matthew isn't yet over. We still heard about those people of interest that we've spoken about. Certainly one, if not two, from the Newry area, and somebody who comes into Ireland from Dubai with that money or access to it to buy the Castlemore. There's people, I think we heard during the sentence hearing, on the phones and in control of it from the Netherlands, from Spain. There was other countries as well mentioned, was Turkey mentioned, and Iran, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting characters out there who are all watching this boat and fingers crossed for it to land. The investigation is obviously ongoing, and the crew, but on the boat itself, it's very important for all those interested parties to have somebody.
They have to,
from their camp.
A huge amount of responsibility. we don't know if I think the full amount of the cocaine was due to go onto the Castlemore. I mean, I don't know if that was ever.
See, there was a suggestion at the time that it had taken the route towards the Canary Islands, the Matthew, and it did slow around the Canary Islands. And there was a suggestion at the time that another boat kind of was near it.
Yeah.
At the time. Now, we never kind of uncovered whether a transfer had occurred there.
Yeah.
We do know the captain didn't want to do the transfer in Irish waters, which are much more swelly and I suppose, prone to more severe weather, given where we are geographically. But for me, that always suggested, I wonder, was there other cargo already unloaded there near the Canaries where it slowed? Was half of it gone before it even got to Ireland?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not clear, and it's certainly...
Because it wouldn't make total sense to head towards the Canaries and then back up. They were sort of felt like they were going there for a reason, And of course they have ports everywhere. Remember, they're telling them as they're trying to put the foot to the floor to get out of Irish waters, get into international waters. They first tell them to go to Gibraltar, where they will get, to port, according to these leaders, these various people that are on the phones. And then they tell them to head straight to Sierra Leone, where, of course, Daniel Kinahan was previously connected to funding child soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was...
He denied that completely.
He did. He was named in a report, an intelligence report. Obviously not convicted of it. But yeah, you can see how these major drug shipments really operate from the MV Matthew, and that's why it's so interesting. We tend to talk in terms of this gang and that gang, but really it's something more similar than a multinational operation where... There's a number of people invest in it, and people take charge of certain parts of it. And it's, why are Interpol so interested in the Kinahans? Why are the Kinahans being sanctioned by the US? Why have they achieved that level of notoriety? And it seems that it's that connection to the Iranian regime that probably have brought them right up to the top of the tree. Alan Cherry from the Sunday World was down there at the press conference, and he spoke to a representative of Interpol, and he asked them, we think the Kinahans are big, but in Interpol terms, are they like a little bit big, a middle bit big, or a big bit big? And, I'm paraphrasing Alan now, but he basically said, no, they're a big bit big. Like, they're one of the major criminal operations in the world. They're right up the top of the tree. And that, he asked them as well about the super cartel, which has obviously come under huge pressure, seen a load of people put away. And he said, well, look, some of them are gone, but they continue to evolve. And that's continuing to happen. The evolution of how they operate continues. And certainly we've seen in EU reports most recently about how the influence of state actors has grown in the cocaine trade worldwide. And that is regimes like Russia, like Iran, who are desperate for funds, but also have access to operators across the world. And that's according to the EU that has become more and more of a feature of the international drug trade.
It's nice to see the Gardaí do a decent job with their PR and get out there and show us all exactly what went on in this operation, because we're very used to the UK police, the NCA in particular, giving us things like this. Once they secure a conviction, nobody's looking for this sort of stuff while it's still forming part of an evidence thread or before sentencing. But in the aftermath of it, it's good to see a little bit of that modern sort of marketing of, this is what we do. And this is kind of, I'd say there's young people there all over Ireland going, I want to be in that Ranger Wing.
Yeah, no, totally. The very, interesting press conference, really. Very different than it might have been back in our day.
And was it held with the Matthew in the background?
It was, yeah. And people were brought down there. And
to see the Matthew?
Well, yeah, not brought around it as such, no. But, brought down, held a press conference at it. And they brought over their international partners as well, who spoke openly and freely. And, I think it gives a good insight into the work of the Gardaí. I think if you look at that video, you can see
And the
just
army,
how, and the army and the other arms of the state. You can see how good a job it was.
For sure. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Niall.
Thanks, Nicola.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.